All of your personal data could easily be on the internet right now and you wouldn't have a clue. But there would be signs. Random spam emails, random phone calls. And genuinely, when you're getting that shit, you're at risk. In boxing terms, your chin's wide open, your guard's low. In football terms, it's an open goal. Where's the centre-backs? Where's the goalkeeper? Well, I'll tell you where. Incogni. This is your line of protection against these data brokers who are out there online, stealing your information and selling it on the internet. And what Incogni does is it acts as your personal security team to go out there and to stop it from happening and to keep you secure. Because unfortunately, this can get really serious where people take bank cards out in people's names. It's a very dark place, the internet. And Incogni is super easy to use. You just create an account, tell them whose data specifically you want removed from the internet, and boom, they're on it. And the beauty is it's 30 days risk-free. So if you try it and it's not for you, you can get a full refund. So if you want to sleep better at night knowing that you're not going to be a victim of any of this stuff, go to incogni.com/paingame and you'll get a massive 60% off your annual plan. It's a great price for you and your family's safety. And also when you do it, you're helping us pay for the content, and I really appreciate everyone who signs up. Welcome back to the Pain Game. We are talking Eubank versus Benn, the rematch. It's on pay-per-view this weekend. You can get it when you click the link in the description below. You get a 7-day free trial as well. Next weekend, also, don't forget, Saudi Arabia, the 22nd of November. It's Anthony Yarde versus David Benavidez, wow. Devin Haney versus Brian Norman Jr. It's going to be a sick event. We're going to be live, but today we're talking Eubank. Benn, lads, it's the rematch. What we feeling? Are we feeling anyone's going to be majorly changed? And is there anything that you're thinking is coming specifically this weekend?
I'm worried about one thing. And it's weight. It's still weight. I need to know how Eubank makes that weight.
I think he looks great, by the way. I've seen him. He looks better this time. I think
he looks better, but we haven't seen if we don't know what's going on in terms of on the scales and if he has to go and do that mad weight cut that he did. But on the day of the fight, because that made a big difference of the kind of Eubank we got. If Eubank makes weight, forget about it. Conor Benn fans, no matter what you think about how good he is, how much he can improve, this, that, and the other, it's a foregone conclusion. Because I'm saying Conor Benn was not able to knock out a dehydrated fighter. And I don't know why no one's bringing it up as we're talking about this rematch and stuff. I don't care if he's more relaxed in there. I don't care if he doesn't bite back as much because Eubank's good at the mind games and stuff. We're talking about somebody that now has all his faculties and will be in that ring on weight and dangerous. If we get
the problem is, KG, the problem is though, Eubank fights at 160 and has done for many years now, and this is his weight class. Like, don't get me wrong, the rehydration clause would not have helped him, but this is, like, if we watch him against Sharameta, we remember, he didn't look great in that fight either. This is him at 160. Eubank deliberately has been boiling himself down to this weight for time, because at 168, he got his arse kicked by the best in the world, and he can't compete at that level. That's the reason he's at that weight. This is the reason why he didn't choose a fight against Hamza Shiraz, why he didn't choose a fight against Canelo, rejected both of those fights, and picked a 147 fighter. He's an opportunist, in my opinion, and for all I don't agree with these weight restrictions, he shouldn't be fighting Conor Benn, and I'm not going to feel sorry for him because he signed up to fight a guy who's much smaller than him for having to do this when he could have fought Hamza Shiraz, Canelo Alvarez. I give him no sympathy.
Ultimately, though, the thing with the weight restriction and the weight controversy is, as much as we can all have our opinions on it, none of us can sit here truly knowing whether it's actually bollocks or not. Do you know what I mean? Like, none of us can. You can have your opinion. Like, KG, you're saying you definitely think the hydration was a factor. By the way, I'm in the same boat. But what I'm saying is, none of us can definitively say that. We've seen Eubank Jr. box at that weight, and we've seen him box comfortably at that weight. By the way, I know that the Serres Meta one, obviously, he was sweating out in the hotel and things like that. But what I would say to you.
It was who's in front of him, though. That was the difference, wasn't it? Sharameta was not a live dog. Conor Benn was a live dog. So yeah. you got a harder fight for him.
And also, like, you know that process, right? I think to boxing fans, it's basically to anyone that's not done a weight cut, you look at that and you go, oh, fuck yeah, no, that's grim, that is. Loza, how many times have you seen people go through that same process that Eubank went through? I see it all the time. I see it every show that I box on. I do it. Like
it is difficult, but the difference is in 12-round boxing versus, amateur 3-round boxing, misfits, 5 rounds and stuff like that. It's completely different, especially in the second half of the fight. But the version I've seen of Eubank the last few fights when he has cut to make that weight, I think his body has outgrown the weight. I think everyone's I think it's so difficult because both guys actually think Benn is more beneficial being at the slightly heavier weight. To me, he looks healthier, stronger, because even in previous fights with Benn, I thought he doesn't look, I've seen him being hurt off smaller men, yet he took all of Chris Eubank Jr.'s punches. I actually think the size does him the world of good. So I personally do think the disadvantages with Chris Eubank Jr.
Can I counterpoint on that? Because if you're talking to me about, they're both disadvantaged. One fighter is fighting 2 weight classes above, and let's be honest, Conor Benn would never have gone to 160 if it wasn't for this fight. This is the only fight he's ever gone to that weight for, in my opinion. He doesn't belong anywhere near it. He's not even a big 147.
He doesn't belong near light middle. He's not a big 147. He doesn't even belong
at 154 or whatever, right? So he's disadvantaged. Eubank is disadvantaged by the rehydration clause, but in my opinion, if you look at the greater disadvantage across the fight, what decided who won this fight, in my opinion, the jab, which is the reach of Eubank, was fought. He immediately had the advantage in there. The height to keep you away, immediate advantage. Later in the rounds, piling it on with his weight. The weight helped him dramatically. So the deciding factors in this fight were the disadvantages that Conor Benn has against Eubank. If they were the same size, would Chris Eubank been able to have taken those shots? I highly doubt it, in my opinion. I think that despite the disadvantage for Eubank, I think his advantages actually still were the more important.
And this is what makes me question the rehydration, because ultimately, to look at the fight itself, you can kind of get your answers. And I know that there's different factors to it, but I feel like for the first 4 rounds, the fight was highly competitive, right? I feel from 5, 6, whatever, from 6 rounds onwards, Eubank took over the fight. Okay. Now, the tendencies that I would suspect to see in a weight-drained fighter would be the opposite. It would be a faster start, and then it unravels quickly. Eubank Jr. took over in the fight, and that's the only reason which makes me think, is there any world in which the whole weight cut thing is a part of the narrative? We do need to remember, people, we do need to remember that we've took away the family feud storyline, that narrative. Yes. We've got to have something here.
Yeah, the response to that is we have to remember the cloth that Eubank is cut from. So when we talk about the Warriors Code, he's grown up within that Warriors Code he's grown up Lennox at the house. This man, these great fighters have been around him. He was not, even when he gets cut, and he understands what this is about. This is legacy. I'm fighting here. I don't even talk to my dad. And my dad's shown up. I've been cut. I'm going to war. Forget about how I'm feeling. So his body has the feeling after the fight where the adrenaline's gone, the real stuff kicks in of, oh my goodness, now you're feeling everything. But he was not quitting at any stage because they're like that. Look, his dad is stubborn. Even Benn comes from stubbornness. If you think about it, these guys will not go down. So even if they say they're not their dads, there's that piece of DNA of their parents that won't allow them to quit. And that's why Conor Benn stayed in there as long as he did as well.
Can I just quickly jump in? I'm totally with KG here because I think everyone's talking about the disadvantage, who had the better advantage. But I think equally we had Chris Eubank Jr. more experience, but past his best. We've got Conor Benn having to go up in weight, but he's young. Argue he's more hungry, he's faster, he had all the speed. But for me, it was all down to the mentality, because when it come down to the wire, it was the man who could be the cooler head and apply the tactics, which was Chris Eubank Jr. If you look at everything else around it, it was all about the mentality, in my opinion. Forget ability. It was who could go to the wire. I think that's the overall factor, in my opinion. It was nothing to do with ability in stages of career and all the rest of the advantages. It was who could apply the tactics. That's the way I see it.
Yeah,
I do think that the reach and all the other physical advantages help put Chris Eubank in the driver's seat for the final stretch. But I agree that the mental strength both of them showed, I think they both had come up with a lot of credibility. Like, no one can fucking take that away. Like, I know they're 100%. Not the best in the world, and but they both proved a lot, and I think they proved a lot to each other, which sort of brings us on to the next question of, like, they both underestimated each other, in my opinion, and I'm looking at both of them showing a lot more respect, subtly, even in the face-off and stuff. I think hiring Bomac from Chris Eubank is a sign of respect. Yep. It's like, all right, I really need to bring out everyone here. The fact that he looks more dialed in on his wake-up. But I also think Conor Benn definitely thought, after watching the knockout that Eubank suffered, he thought, I can do that to you. And he came in and fought like an idiot. I'll be honest. Yeah. I think his strategy, the risk, the distance management, not setting up shots. I think they're both going to be improved versions of each other. But who do you think can improve more in the rematch?
I think the Eubank Jr. can. And that goes against what I think most people feel, because I think that you can look at Conor Benn and you can go, mate, 14, 16 months of inactivity, something like that. Even when you did have those 2 fights over in the States, they were at a lower level than Eubank Jr. and it's hard to get yourself up for it. This is the first time you're headlining in an outdoor arena, a stadium fight. So I think that you could go, oh, well, he's gained all that experience and whatever, it'd be Conor Benn. I actually think it's Eubank Jr. I think it's Eubank Jr. who can be better, because I always look at rematches, and especially, I look at Tyson Fury against Deontay Wilder 1. I remember Tyson Fury realized after that knockdown, actually, the best way to do it to you is to push you back, right? Now, I believe that Eubank Jr. realized that within the fight, realized that he was able to do that, and then applied it. I think with a trainer like Bomac, he could apply it earlier, and therefore he won't be as knackered by the time he does do that. His punches might have a little bit more spite in them. And the main thing I'd say is I was listening to Conor Benn and Carl Froch, and Conor Benn was saying about this experience, right? He said, I hurt him in the 3rd round and it was a lack of experience what made me fuck up here, basically. He said, I hurt him in the 3rd round and I kind of went after him and I put that down to a lack of experience. Well, that little scenario you played out there, yeah? I can think of 20, 30, maybe 40 different scenarios similar to that happen in fights, right? And the only way that you can deal with that scenario is you're either really good at nailing something the first time, or you've had the experience because you've been there before. Now, Conor Benn admitted, I hadn't been in a situation where I'd hurt someone, gassed myself out before. That's not a good sign, in my opinion. So I just think across high-level fights, whether it's win, lose or draw, by the way, Chris Eubank Jr.'s just gained so much experience that I think when it comes to formulating a game plan, take away a coach, just the fighter themselves, Eubank Jr. is in a much better position to formulate a game plan to win here.
He did seem to figure him out. He did start throwing the right hand a lot more. But I do think that also, that wasn't as much just game plan as I think early on, personally, the speed of Conor Benn, it was like a lot of, and he was really aware of like, this motherfucker can bang, and I got to keep him at bay with the lead hand and just keep my fucking, hand glued to my chin sort of thing. And I think he had to wait a little bit deliberately as well. But what about Conor Benn?
Do you worry that Conor Benn, if he tries to become too much of a boxer? So I got the Buatsi worry, where you're meant to be a bit reckless. Some fighters are meant to fight on the end of like, we don't know what to expect. And if you take that away from him and try to turn him into a set up everything and do this, like make him incredibly orthodox in terms of systematic, in terms of the way he does it, it could even play perfectly into Eubank's hands. I think he has to be a bit erratic. I think he has to do some of the stuff and create moments of confusion. For Eubank. I think he has to do that. I think if they're trying to make him a boxer's boxer, how?
I don't think they'll do that. I think that would be insanity, because when you look at what you've got a pit bull, haven't you? You don't want to change him as an animal. You just want to educate him a little bit and make him realize, like, you have to edge in before you throw those shots. You can't be throwing them a mile away. You have to set things up. Like, his jab is actually a good lightning fucking quick fast jab, and he was smacking Eubank earlier with it, and he just abandoned it when he hurt him. I think he was like, fuck this, right hands all day now. And I think he got taught a lesson in that sense, and he just needs to make minor adjustments, as me and Loz were saying the other day on Loz's channel, in order to have a better chance. But about the calm and the storm, though, we've seen the face-off. How calm is Conor Benn coming into this compared to last time?
Way more.
No different.
I think he is more calm. It reminds me of the Carl Froch George Groves rematch, where Carl Froch went to a quack, in George Groves' words, a shrink, right? And Groves was, it's mad how times change, isn't it? Because like Groves was like bantering him about it, saying, you've gone to a shrink, you've gone to a psychiatrist, that's how mentally unstable you are for this rematch and whatever. But Carl admitted that he did do that. He admitted that Groves did get under his skin, and he admitted that he needed help to stop feeling such hatred for this man because it could affect his performance. And I think that if you are that type of character and you can understand those flaws in yourself and admit them, I think it can only be a good thing. And I've seen interviews of Conor Benn saying, like, do you know what? I am an emotional character, and I was too emotional in there. I was too hot-headed at times. I did want to go in there and take his head off. I was thinking about how he said, if your dad ever puts his hands on me again, he won't be getting those hands back. And I think that to accept that and to admit that can only make you better, to be honest.
Loza, you disagree?
I think there's a difference of admitting it, saying all the right things, but I don't think he's changed at all. I think the only difference is that Chris isn't playing the same mind games this time. He hasn't been slapped with an egg this time in the face-off. He was still reacting to absolutely everything that Chris was saying. I don't think his mentality's changed at all. I think the minute the bell goes, it'll be the exact same Tasmanian devil that'll come out.
I think he's in
got
terms of... Go on, Karen.
You what, sorry? I just think...
Carry on.
In terms of tactics and stuff like that, he doesn't need to change. He needs to be exactly the same fighter, in my opinion. It's just a case of, smoothing the edges out. Me and Brian were saying, get a little bit closer before you attack. Keep that busy, juttery movement going, because that's what's the unpredictable, which, got him to success, the speed. I don't think it's about changing, just adapting it slightly.
The point I was going to make, when you talk about, there is a cool calmness about him. That is, remember, this guy is always angry. Like, I like the fact that he's always ready to go. Like, he's got that let's go now Dubois energy about him, so he wants to fight. Even when he's doing in interviews and he might say something that rubs in the wrong way, he's actually done really well in terms of how angry he can get to how he's playing it, which now makes you do, because I listened to his dad speaking, his dad like, it's different. He's different. And I'm going to believe Nigel when he says, look, my son is going to this one. He's laughing now at the thing. There's more of a better relate. I think what's struggling with these two is
I know why
friends.
it is, though.
I think I
also know why it is.
Go ahead.
Remember last time he was coming off the back of all of the drugs ban and his name was dirty in the media. Eubank made him feel 10 times worse about it. The egg smack, he was just and then talking about what you're going to do to his dad, and there was a lot of negativity around. Like, his frame of mind was not right. Yeah, and I'm not saying I disagree with Loza in that he is who he is. He's always going to be a fucking pit bull. But I think that the clouds have sort of removed a little bit in that.
Definitely,
you've seen him. He's been on a boat. He's bought himself a fucking Rolls Royce. Life's pretty better now, and he's back fighting again. He's had that time. He's knocked the ring rust off. I don't see a world in which we don't see a better version of Conor Benn. The issue, like Joy said earlier, is that the data that Eubank, that savvy veteran, now has on him, and the fact that he did turn a corner in the fight might just mean that round 13 starts off a little bit, using that data against you, especially with a Bomac in there. Question, lads, do you expect the fight to look much different, or do you think it'll look pretty much the same?
I'm gonna go with it's a different fight. It would be different, and it's just how I want to see how Conor starts, because that will tell me everything I need to know. I know that Eubank will come on strong later in the game. It's just, does Conor Benn, is he tentative? Has he got so different that he's not going for it in the same way? Is he waiting and trying to pick off his moments? That's what we need to know, if he's going to rush in there.
I think he needs to fight in spots. You remember when Ryan Garcia fought Devin Haney? Mm-hmm. He knew he was in there with a better boxer, but he knew if I store my energy a little bit and burst and explode every now and then when you're not expecting it and blitz you, I'm going to fucking hurt you, because you get into your rhythm, you're not expecting it, and then all of a sudden it's all kicking off. Instead of coming out, sort of showing your cards as a poker player would, keep your cards close to your chest a little bit more and explode every now and then. And that'll also help them pace the fight, because literally it was 100 miles an hour from the first first fucking bell.
That's why it was
and I don't
great.
think for 1 second Conor Benn thought, we're going 12 rounds, yeah. He looked at the Liam Smith fight and he thought, I'm getting you out of here sooner or fucking later. I don't think he planned the fight. And you got to plan a fight as big as this, in my opinion. And that's why I think he will be better.
Do you know what?
I don't know if he'll...
Sorry, Brian. Do you know why I think why I think Eubank Jr. will be better as well is that Bomac addition. Not only the fact that I really rate Bomac, like I think Bomac's a great coach, but that Bomac addition, right? With the first fight, Bomac wouldn't have been sat there knowing whether there was definitely going to be a rematch. He wouldn't have been sat there knowing whether he was going to be involved in that rematch. I doubt that was a case at that point. So although he's worked with Eubank Jr., I believe that Bomac has probably been able to watch that fight as almost a neutral. I'd suspect he'd want Eubank Jr. to win because he's worked with him, but as almost a neutral. Now, sometimes you can be too close to the painting to see the detail, and sometimes you can be too close in there and have too much emotion around certain things that aren't really fight related that cloud your judgment. So I'm not saying that Tony Sims isn't going to be able to do a stellar job with Conor Benn, but I think that having a trainer that wasn't your trainer in the first fight is actually an advantage, because I think that Bomac is going to be able to watch that first fight, analyze it, and be able to take away everything that went around the build-up, which although it's a trainer's job to kind of keep out of and keep, level-headed and keep your fighter tuned in, you can't help but feel like that would have affected people.
I've already seen clips of that. Bomac in training with Eubank telling them, because Eubank has this thing where he drops his hand and he was telling, bring your hand back, don't stop dropping it, because obviously that was something that was capitalized on. So 100%. Do we want to do a little prediction, lads? Do we want a little, what we're expecting to happen?
Yeah.
How do you see it going?
Yeah.
Who's ready?
I'm ready for that. I think I'm getting with a knockout. Conor Benn goes down 7-8.
Do you think you'll be out flat or you'll get back up and eventually it'll be with TKO?
The referee will have to step in and just wave it off.
I'm going late stoppage, Chris Eubanks Jr.
Yeah.
I'm going to go, but let's say if I'm picking rounds, I'm kind of 7 to 10. I'm going to go 7 to 10.
I always felt, and I think a few people made a point of it, but I don't know if anyone felt it as strongly as me. I thought that Chris Eubank Jr. came very, very close to knocking Conor Benn out in that 12th round. He hit him with a left hook, and you can just kind of see from the expression, Conor Benn was in trouble. I've never seen him look like that. I do think that Chris Eubank Jr. will be able to replicate those scenarios from an earlier stage. In doing so, he might walk into one. But if I had to put my money where my mouth is, I'd go a Chris Eubank Jr. stoppage mid-rounds.
You're all making very logical and annoyingly good points.
Listen, it's weight dependent though. If he goes in there and I see that he hasn't made weight and he's back in that suit, my prediction has to change.
Do you know what? I can't even lie. I want Conor Benn to win because I love an underdog, and also I'm just bored of Eubank. I think Eubank makes himself a victim.
Eubank's the underdog. What are you talking about? Eubank's the underdog.
Fuck up.
Yes, he
is.
is.
The only time in the history of boxing where the bigger man with the longer reach, the height and everything is seen as some little... He's getting bullied by a 147.
He's only got 9.5 toenails. What are you going on about? Lost half a toenail.
So this is what I'm annoyed at, right? Just hear me out, because I actually love Chris as a character.
Yeah.
I don't like men who whinge and complain all the time, aside from if it's about your football team, which is acceptable. Now, it's just always poor me. Everyone's against me. Every promoter's against me. The ambulances. Eddie set it up so the ambulances couldn't leave the city. And I'm just sick of hearing him fucking moan. And the way he couldn't accept, Liam Smith smashed you to bits. I just want him rendered unconscious just so that he has to grow as a person. This is for me wanting the best for Chris Eubank. He needs to grow as a person.
He's never going to grow as a person. He's never like that. You're asking for. He'll take even if he gets stopped, he'll still feel.
So if I am to try it, because I agree with everything as I say, but if I am to try and figure out a world for the purpose of the video in which I see Conor Benn winning this, it would be because of a few reasons. A, obviously, you're saying the dehydration would play a role in the lack of ability to absorb punches, and I do think that is one bonus for him. But also the recovery. I think that Chris Eubank deliberately pushed this back a couple of months because he was not in a position to get out and go and do the hard yards and do the hard sessions because Conor Benn fucking leapt out of bed the next morning on a plane to New York, not a fucking mark on him. He recovered. I mean, even as quick as we've seen boxers recover before, it was insane what he'd been through. And you know, Eubank's still in a hospital bed and fucking Conor's in New York City with his sunglasses on, signing autographs. It wasn't a good look. Like, it really felt like he won the war. He might not have won the fight, but you know what I mean? And maybe that took a lot out of Chris Eubank. Maybe, and I'm not saying that this is the truth, but in a world in which Conor Benn wins this fight, maybe that's one of the reasons that you can't just keep going to the well, because let's be real, Eubank really went to the well, as Deloza correctly said. He really, really dug down deep. How many of those have you got when you're in your late 30s? After you've been battered, you know, previously in fights? Maybe that's the reason why. And with a few tweaks, Conor Benn gets the job done in the first 6 rounds. Let's hope we see it.
You know the difference? You know the difference? Chris Eubanks Jr. is now going to be becoming a father. He's got that extra little bit to get between his teeth. Twins. Double trouble. So I think mentally that might give him an extra edge to go even further. Because, you know, it's all about legacy in this family. So, I think that might be an edge.
You know, when you say about that recovery time, I think that is so key, though, because there's a reason. Is it still 3 months, the British Boxing Board of Control rule you out after a stoppage?
Yeah.
I think it's 3 months, right?
Yeah.
If it's 3 months,
I should know that, but I think you're right.
No, you shouldn't know it, mate. You've never been stopped. No one's been touched. No one's been touched. No one's been dropped. No one's been stopped here. But anyway, that recovery time, I think like if you were to get stopped in a fight, right? You're supposed to not fight for 3 months, right? If you're not supposed to fight for 3 months, really, by that logic, if you agree with it, sparring, you shouldn't really be doing that. I would argue that there are stoppages where fighters have had that 3-month ban imposed on them, where they haven't took a fourth of the damage that Eubank Jr. took in that fight.
1,000,000% true. Spot on, Joey. I think that he looked like he'd been in a fucking car accident after that. I mean, it was bad, and we just don't know, you know, what that has done to his ability to endure punishment. Like, how many times can you get hit like that and just keep walking it off? We've seen against Smith, he can be stopped, he can be hurt, despite what Chris Eubank says about being on his feet.
Elbow.
We're going to find out. It's going to be a fucking good fight. Don't forget, links in the description below if you want to buy the pay-per-view. And next weekend, potentially fight of the year contender, Yard versus Benavidez. It's going to be a fucking war. Personally, I've got someone who I dislike way more than Eubank fighting. Devin Haney, I want him slept. I want to be there. I want to be throwing fucking holy water on him and pronounce it. No, not that bad. But, you know, I really
very
don't like Devin
fitting.
Haney.
It's going to be a man named Brian to do it then.
I know, Matt. Come on, big Brian. Get in, son. Fucking love it. Anyway, we'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.